All right, Andrea T here, and I am going to talk today about let's talk shit. I love that. It's just amazing. But honestly, just coming off of a conference this past weekend, we had a lot of functional med doctors, women who work specifically with women with metabolic issues. And this was the one area that continuously gets missed is the detox kind of area. And so I would love to know, you can put it in the chat below this or in the chat now, but like if you have issues with digestion, meaning do you ever get constipated, or the opposite effect? And that is really important because that tells us how well you are or are not detoxifying your body. And so that what does that mean? Well, let's kind of hop into it. So basically, we are all exposed to a lot of toxins all day, every day. Most individuals have anywhere from 3 to 700 toxins each. And even babies, so like when you were born, they have measurable toxins. So the World Health Organization estimates that 12.6 million deaths each year are linked to environmental factors, including exposure to toxic chemicals. And basically, our body plays a really crucial role in how well the body detoxifies and the potential health effects. And there can also be things like genetic predisposition. Hey, Shelley, so if you want to throw
No,
in the chat, hi, or you can just say, like, we're talking about, let's talk shit and basically why it is so important. And it's sometimes, and most times actually, the missing link as to why you may not be feeling good, why you're having trouble losing weight, and it starts with our plumbing system. So that's why I wanted to talk about this today. And I just came off a conference and they were talking about that's usually the missing link is that we're fast forwarding into losing weight and things like that. But what's truly burdening the body is these toxins and this inflammation, and things are not detoxifying right. And then suddenly someone goes on a diet and then they're not losing weight because it's more water weight, more inflammation, and it has more to do with our digestive system and the way we're detoxing. So, do you ever have any kind of digestive issues, or is that all pretty good? And if you don't want to answer, you can go move on.
it used to be really bad, and then we started changing things around here. Um, we are on the normal BIY water, whatever you want to call it, system that's around here, but we put a purifying system in, which takes all of the toxins in the area out and puts the good ones back in. So that was the first thing that we did to try and get some of that um, out of the house. Not that's not even including the food, the way we prepare our foods, or how we obtain it, or etc. Um, so that's pretty good. But for the longest time, I had a terrible time with gut issues, and once I started getting my diet under control a little bit with you guys, and I got um, started on the supplements and stuff, I started feeling a lot better. I do go through periods where I can't get my rings on, so I know something's going on.
Okay.
Um, but for the most part, I think that um, things are pretty much under control. I found that eating yogurt and things that have that particular type of enzyme in it helps a lot. I don't know if that's the right way or the wrong way to go about it, but
Let's talk more
that
about that.
yeah, that and exercise. Exercise has been huge.
But it's been for your digestive even.
Yes, huge, huge, huge.
Wow. Okay, I love it. I love it. Well, I think, I really wanted to open up this topic because, like I said, it's kind of like the last thing that's getting looked at and measured. And, then I go, I'm with all these functional medicine doctors and people who do this all the time. And, they're like, that is usually one of the biggest missing links. And so I'm not like here to like scare anybody, but so I talked to some eighth grade girls this morning. Like I went and talked to a group of them about exercise and keeping your body good. And then I was like, you know what, we tell people like drink water, blah, 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 but I'm like, you know what, I need to explain a little bit like what water does is basically if you don't have enough water or if you're not hydrated or if you don't have enough food going, then everything's going to slow down. And then basically you have this toxic buildup because excreting, through urine, through, going to the bathroom, that's how we get rid of these toxins. And so I thought maybe if they understood, because like as a kid, I never understood that or cared, you know what I mean? And like now it's like, oh yeah, I know I should drink water, but it's like, no, drink water. But it is such a big piece. So basically, let's kind of go through the detoxification process. So the body's natural, and we'll make this fun. Like I'm not gonna be too sciencey, but I do think it helps like to think about like all the physiological things happening. So our natural process of, getting rid of toxins and harmful substances, including hormones like estrogen, if we have estrogen dominance, that kind of breaks everything down. And that can actually take up our testosterone or impact us in a really negative way. So, when we do that, basically the liver, kidneys, skin, colon, and lungs are all the organs involved in this process. So the liver creates something called bile. So, like if you've ever had the dry heaves, it's the only thing I can think of, like you're throwing up like that liquid, the bile. And it's kind of a negative connotation if you think of it that way, but bile is like everything. So if your bile production goes down, your detoxification is going to be greatly impacted. And what that does in the liver is it creates the bile and then it filters the blood to remove chemicals, dead cells, any kinds of, like foreign substances, and even microorganisms. So it really has a whole effect on the body. And so that's why nothing can be apart. It's kind of like, can we, just work on our liver? Well, sort of, but what's that going to do? It's going to impact, other areas in our body and all the way down to our hormones. And why we're gaining weight or not able to lose weight is significantly impacted by how our entire body is working. So by the time you've gained weight in your belly and you're having trouble losing it, it more it's that is a symptom of probably a long-term kind of breakdown of this detoxification. And so healing that first is probably what needs to happen. So basically, the phase one is hydrolysis, oxidation, reduction, and the nutrients involved are like all the B vitamins, folate. So you can see B2, 3, 6, 12, glutathione. So glutathione is one that I really recommend for a lot of people because if you think about toxicity in the body or even like if we have excess estrogen, that's going to be in the form of a fat. And so it's fat soluble. And there's no way to really get rid of that because it gets stored in your fat cells. And then our biggest, fattiest area around is up in our brain. So that's why, like, when we have excess toxins that can't get rid of, they're not being excreted correctly, or, we've been going through a lot of stress, then suddenly it's living in our fat cells, it's fat soluble, so it can't come out. So what the best way to do and get rid of these things is make them water soluble, because then your body can pick them up and excrete it out through the body. So that's how you do that. So if you have heavy metals even or any of these things, glutathione is one of the biggest. So it's an antioxidant, just like melatonin. So melatonin, glutathione, those are all really good ways to take these fat soluble toxins, make them turn into water soluble, and then be able to excrete them through going to the bathroom in either urine or feces. So branched chain amino acids are also amazing. Flavonoids, and then activated intermediates. So basically, having any type of antioxidant support. So that's why we're always talking about like make your diet super colorful and get those polyphenols, really work on, getting different types of fiber. And one of the biggest changes I feel like we overlook is if you're, like hitting protein and eating the same foods every day, that could actually be hindering your progress because your body gets really used to the microbiome of that, and to make it more diverse by adding in different types of foods that it has to do different processes to break down creates diversity in the body, and that actually helps you detoxify quicker. And then you also have much more antioxidant support. So if you think of like green tea, matcha, coffee, those are all high in antioxidants. And then think about super colorful, like dark leafy greens, or like even dark berries, cherries, like all of those are great. And then they also have vitamin A, vitamin C, CoQ10, selenium, zinc. I'll let Tiffany in. Bioflavonoids, so phycnogenol. And then let's go over to basically like, here we go. So we have these reactions, and then we have these nutrients, and then basically you're going to have more reactions to get rid of these toxicities and nutrients. And then we need the ATP, the glutathione, the glycine, the glutamine, the taurine. These are all NAC, methionine, so methyl donors. So these all have to do a lot. Like you'll notice, like ATP is energy. Um, and then we then excrete it into water soluble compounds. So these are going from fat soluble to water, and they come out in your bile, they come out in your pee. And that's basically how we detoxify. And you're not able to detoxify um, like a fat toxin through sweat unless it becomes water soluble. Does that make sense, or is that like, whoa? What do you think, Shelley? Is that a little crazy?
It is crazy, but I understand the basic reason behind I get all that, I guess.
Yeah, like what is the one thing you kind of heard? Because to me, there's one thing that stands out, and that's the creating a toxin that is fat. Like if you think about like when you have a glass of water and you put some olive oil in it, like it's going to separate, right? And so when
Mhm.
you like dump that out, the water is going to go out separate from the fat. And so if you think of a toxin as that oil, and then the water is the hydration and getting rid of things, and they're separated. So if you need to eradicate that, you're going to have to turn it into water soluble, and then it'll come out.
Well, that if you think about that scenario, when you're thinking about the oil in the water, what does the oil do? It bunches up and it connects with each other and it gets bigger.
Yeah.
So you don't want that.
I like that. I see, and that's the one thing. So that as complicated of a process as that may sound to detoxify, it's very simple. It's just chemistry. Our body is just one big chemistry thing, and there's water soluble, there's fat soluble, and we got to get those toxins out of our brain, out of our body. So we got to turn them into water soluble. And you do that through eating like an array of colorful veggies, getting the right nutrients, and you could even add in like some glutathione, some melatonin, that kind of thing. So when toxic substances come into our body, there is a need to remove it or inactivate them in order to maintain good health. Otherwise, they keep kind of running the show and they hijack the processes. And like you said, like one little piece of fat, then another one comes along and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then suddenly, like, now you got a real problem, because you've got more visceral fat. Now you're starting to have brain issues. Your body's being taken over by inflammation. and it's a real thing. And then suddenly like you're like, I want to lose weight, and you're trying to eat less food, but that's not it at all. It's more like we got to get you pooping. We got to get these things into more water soluble, get rid of that inflammation, and then you could look at, okay, the scale is going down now. I'm starting to feel better. So, biotransformation is just the name for the process that the body deals with the toxic, stressors. So, not really that important. So, but if we were to like break it down, basically it is metabolism, right? So, we're going to look at how that works. And so, it's very important to understand that metabolism is just all processes in the body. So like if you're like, I have a slow metabolism, or if I have a high metabolism, it's like, well, very kind of true, but like mainly that just means like you can increase your things happening in your metabolism just by drinking more water. And that's as easy as that can be, because now your body has the water and it has to do different chemical reactions, which increases and speeds it up. Maybe it's cold water, it has to bring it down to homeostasis, like body temperature. That takes something. Then you never eat beets, and then suddenly you're putting beets into your diet, and you also added some Brussels sprouts, and you don't usually eat those. So your body's like, oh, wow, what's this? And it has to break those down. And then it gets the antioxidants. And then it starts to kind of, move around the gut microbiome. So suddenly you're increasing your metabolism, and then you're able to, clean out your gut, go to the bathroom, get rid of this stuff, and you're getting healthier. So that's basically, without getting nuts, what it is. So let's just get through. So basically, detoxification through our poop is waste removal and excretion. So I guess I never really thought of it that way. Like, I just think like, oh, I don't feel good if I don't poop, or like, oh, I talk to people all the time who are like, I poop once a week, and I'm like, oh no. Or like my husband had more like IBS, so he was like pooping every morning, like a lot, and that's not normal either. So it's really about getting it into, like every day you are getting regular with your bowel movements. Like once we see that happening, then it's like, wow, now we could go into a weight loss phase. But until then, I feel like that's where we need to work on the plumbing. And then we also, in the meanwhile, will be balancing your gut bacteria. And so you can do that with things, like oranges, apples, grapefruits, cruciferous vegetables, all of those things. So it's very easy to do this with food, and then also hydrating. So that's why we keep bringing you guys back to like, all right, make sure that you're doing an anti-inflammatory eating protocol. Most of the foods you're eating are like from the ground, they're basically from the ground to your mouth. Like they're not having a lot of processes in there, because all of these things are going to help your bile creation to break down the food and then to re-energize your gut microbiome. Does that make sense, Shelley?
Mhm.
I get to pick on you because Kelly, I think Kimberly she's at work, she can't talk. So, and then Tiffany, are you here? Can you say hi? She might be
I'm
doing some.
here. I'm just running in circles trying to do 25 things at one time.
Well, I'm going to pick on Shelly more then. So basically, let's just go through this. So we have our phase one, which is our detoxification. So we're, adding a reactive site to the lipid toxic compound. So we're turning it into our water soluble. So adding a water soluble group. So antioxidants, think bright colors in your diet, fiber, polyphenols, which is basically fiber, onions, leeks, things that your body has to break down, turns things into a more water soluble group. And then the antiporter system basically moves metabolites from the phase two out of the cells and plays a role of toxins and that pre-biotransformation that we talked about, and then you excrete it. So that is as complicated as it is. So, and that your liver does some of these processes, as you're breathing in, your central nervous system, they all work together. So we have to help you guys get more bile creation. That is going to be a huge part of this, but there's more to it than that. So basically, there's certain genes that, influences how you process your toxins. There's something called the MTHFR. Have you heard of that at all?
Mm-mm.
So it's, I would say more people who have fertility issues, which are kind of happening more and more, tend to get that tested to see if that's what's going on. Because a lot of times their body is really congested with toxins, and then they have this DNA, this genetic disposition called MTHFR, and that really disrupts a lot of things. But there's other things too, like lifestyle choices. So smoking, I think smoking, everyone kind of knows, like, that's not good for you. Consuming alcohol and what we're eating really affects our ability to process toxins. And so that is so important. And alcohol, I feel like, has been, something that we're like, oh, in moderation, or, you can even get good effects from red wine or something. But honestly, it's not helping. Like, there's so many other ways to get antioxidants and good things for your body. And it just disrupts your sleep, and it disrupts your bile creation, and it just disrupts the whole body's ability to get rid of toxins, and it creates more. And so also your age. So that's why at this age, now we're all kind of tuning in, like, something's changed. Now I move more, eat less, nothing happens. But before I used to, or like now I'm super moody, or, I'm getting all this, my body's just changing at a rapid rate, or gosh, I've gained 20 pounds in the past 3, 4 months. Cannot tell you how many people I've talked to. And I know that's not body fat, it's inflammation, but it directly goes back to the detoxification phase. And I'm like, I'm sure there's something going on, like maybe leaky gut, or something with the way they're excreting these toxins that are running the show. Health status, so meaning like if you are having cardiovascular disease, or you've kind of tipped over there, or type 2 diabetes, which, or high cholesterol, like that all is coming in now in perimenopause, menopause, post menopause also. So like, we're going to talk about the menopause brain, and there's actual diagrams in the menopause brain that shows how your body deals with glucose. And like, there's different areas that are not lighting up in the brain anymore, just because you don't have the same amount of estrogen and progesterone. And then that is impacting your insulin and all kinds of things. Medications. So we know that they can definitely impact our gut, impact the way we detoxify, and just kind of like create this whole hijack system there. And then last but not least, like our exposure to all the environmental chemicals. So we were talking this weekend about, we're all kind of ingesting about a credit card's worth of plastic. Like, even when I try not to have plastic, like we've switched over to glass containers, I don't drink out of straws, things like that. But like, it was like, well, I just went to Starbucks and I didn't get the cup, like I got the cold brew. And so now I've got a plastic cup. Like, it's just really hard to get away from plastic anymore. And then even in my big metal, water bottle, I was like, shoot, it has a plastic straw. Like, like, because you suck it up. Mine is like one of those suck up ones. And so I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, there's plastic there. And it's just like, oh my gosh, how can we get away? So, I mean, it's really hard. So instead of, definitely try to diminish the use of it. But plastics, they, are kind of full of BPA's, and that is a toxin. And basically, we all have it now in our brains and all throughout our body. And that is impacting our estrogens and things. So, making sure that you have a healthy diet, a healthy lifestyle, like the things you can control, are what you're eating, how much water you're drinking, that you're getting enough sleep. Those are all, and that you're exercising. Just like Shelly said, it's been such a game changer for her. I'm gonna pass that up. So basically, increasing the focus on dietary and lifestyle changes reduces the body's burden of toxins, just like I was saying, so that you can clear various pathways. And these are super easy to do and support, but they do need focus And just like anything else, I feel like it's uncomfortable at first, like, do we always have time to try a new veggie? Like, no. Do you have to kind of focus and go find it? Yes. So it does take some, we have control over those things, but and then trying new recipes and just, kind of opening yourself up to that. And then even just another that takes a lot of focus is getting enough water throughout the day. So, like I've got my little water bottles and I have like a 33 ounce. So I try to get 4 or 5 of those a day, for me specifically. And, it definitely, I have to start right away in the morning or I'm never going to make it, and so really focusing on that. And then, antioxidants like glutathione, like you can put those into your diet. You can also have more melatonin. Those are both strong antioxidants. You can also look at curcumin, which is a very colorful spice. I do a tea that I drink at night. That and you have to be careful with teas now because they come in plastic tea bags. So that also is like, whoa, more plastic. And I didn't realize that, but I was drinking 3 or 4 cups of Good Earth tea a night. And I was like, you know what? I don't know. Like, I think they have a lot of plastic in the tea bag. So I kind of switched over. I do the metal, like little cup in that you put in your tea. And then I just put like loose leaf tea in and then drink that. So, there's just, that's another great antioxidant. So there's just so many ways to do it. But if you're like constipated at all, there's so many different things to look at. Maybe even doing more of a keto kind of approach for a little while to fix that metabolic damage, get some more fats in your body, get you more regular going to the bathroom because it's easier to increase calories and to detox that way. And then slowly adding things back in is also a good way to do it. So, I mean, there's just a lot of different ways, but I can't like tell you or stress enough how important, this is to your body's health. I'm gonna ask questions really quick. See if I can turn my camera on here. Where is my camera? Start video. There we go. Okay. So yeah, any questions about that or thoughts or like about going to the bathroom?
Mhm. Well, it blows my mind when people, and in working in a hospital, you'd be surprised what you talk about among your friends or among your coworkers or in family, especially around the breakfast or dining room table. It just blows my mind. But some of those conversations shouldn't be done with mixed company. But you talk about the foods that you eat or your habits or um, the people who say, yeah, I could go religiously 3 times a day, and you're going, what? I'm lucky if I go 3 times a week, you know?
Yes. I think some of that has to do with too, like your actual, like, okay, like we all have kids, right? So you kind of know what their bathroom habits. Like I had some
Mhm.
kids who every single day they went like multiple times, as babies, and as toddlers, you kind of know. I had another one of my children, and this also kind of may play into some of it too, but he would go like once every 2, 3 days. And so, like, I don't expect him at 22 to, you know what I mean, suddenly have this difference and going to the bathroom, like he probably still has a slower kind of digestive system, but he also has struggled a lot with some mental illness issues. So it kind of brings me back to like, we should probably do a GI map or see what's going on in his gut. So I'm not saying like if you don't go, that's okay, but I'm just saying you kind of know what your rhythm's going to be. So if you're a
Mhm.
3 time a weeker, like even going just a couple more times a week, like for you, Shelley, then would be a great improvement.
Mhm.
Have you always been someone who's gone less or
Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Unfortunately.
Shelley, or so Kimberly says she goes like 3 to 5 times a day.
Oh my.
No. So that is so interesting, Kimberly. I can't believe that's amazing. Like you are detoxifying, girlfriend. Um,
Mhm.
So, so I think like a goal for you, Shelley, would be to get you going more often. So maybe increasing fat for a little while. Like we should look at some of that with Elena, like just to see if she'd kind of switch your macros around. Because I think that's really that important that we get you going more often. And then we could add in maybe some glutathione or something, which is that, water soluble, pulling those toxins out, the antioxidants.
Mhm.
But yeah, I just think for me, I used to be just like that. Like I'd go 3 times a week usually. And now, after I reverse dieted and just kind of, got things more in line the past few years, I am going every single day, except for when I go into a really like big deficit or something. Like right now, I've cut my calories back for the past week. And now I've noticed I'm going, but it's like a lot harder poops and it's not like a good one unless
Yeah,
I like to eat a bunch. So, it's and then I'm like, okay, I probably just need to eat more. I have to come off this deficit because it's too stressful on my digestive system.
yeah.
But yeah, yeah, it's so important to be going. And so figuring that out, I think is like a good next step for you, honestly. Like see if we can get you on a couple more times a week.
Well, and it's crazy too, when you do finally go, you feel like you lost 10 pounds, you know? It
Exactly.
just makes you feel better all the way around.
You do. You just feel
Mhm.
like, oh my gosh, that was what was wrong.
Mhm.
There's basically like these waves along our intestines, and there's no way to really like, you can't make that happen faster other than kind of the healing and the diversity of the gut. And so that's another important piece. But then if you're not hydrated enough, the not enough water is going to go into the bowel area to flush that stuff out. Um, and then another area to kind of focus on is the peeing aspect, like I used to be one, like they say nurses have the bladder of like, what are they, the lead bladder or whatever, like, because they're so busy, they never go to the bathroom. Well, I was that person too. Like I'd pee like twice a day. But when I really focus on my water and all of that, especially earlier in the day, I notice I'm peeing, I have to pee like 4 or 5 times a day. So to me, that's like an upgrade. My grandma used to talk to me about that. Like, you need to pee. You're like, you're not, drink more
Yeah,
water, and it is true. So
yeah.
do
You're
you
gonna end up with a urinary tract infection if you don't. So
yes, are you one that goes pee quite a bit? Like is that area?
I drink so much water that it seems like I'm always in the bathroom, but
Okay, well you've got that part going amazing. So it's just yeah, this is maybe getting the poop schedule back on. Are you guys up for a little more information? Like I have another quick PowerPoint that I can share that I feel like goes with this. Are you overloaded for today?
no, you're fine.
I don't want to overload, but I'm like, well, I'll just share this too. I'm a little on fire today. This has eight, I won't go through the entire thing, but I was like, you know what? I wish we had both of these together. Um, so I did want to talk about more stress and lifestyle detoxification because just talking to these girls this morning, I was like, the only thing we really have power over is ourselves, right? Like we don't have power over, I mean, we can say, don't treat me that way or put up a boundary or, but really like it's ideally up to us. So the one thing that was really enlightening to me is just like, wherever you're at is all your responsibility, which I think, it's sometimes you're like, well, no, because I was born to this family and this happened and that, but it's like, yes, certain things you cannot control, but you can control, what you avoid, the relationships that you're in, and basically every action that you make. Product, food, movement, emotion, and breath is an opportunity for us to positively impact ourselves for wellness. Are we always choosing our highest self? Probably not, but I think it's important to have a really clear picture of what that is because the more often, you have that in line when you get kind of sideswiped by something and you're emotionally taken away, you at least kind of know where you're headed. And so that helps you kind of get back on the road faster. And so just doing like a toxic load kind of assessment is important so we can, provide this. But basically, it looks at like supplements, personal care, medications, just getting a take on where your home, your environment. There's more to it than that. Like, looking at, are you exposed to dusts? Are you exposed to non-green cleaning chemicals? Like just all the things we're not thinking of, and then we can score it. So if you guys want to do like an, toxic load questionnaire, totally good to do that. But then making sure you're taking steps to support, your detoxification capacity. So not only are you, looking to change, what you're eating and things, but you also want to remove food toxins, toxic load, and replace it with foods that support the biotransformation. So what would be a toxic foods? Like talking to these eighth grade girls, I'm like, who eats Takis? Like, does anyone know what a Taki is? I bet Shelly, you might
No.
not. Yeah, you eat very clean, but it's just crackers, chips, like all the on the go. If you go into a gas station, like pretty much 90% of everything in there is a food that is not going to support your journey to your higher self, right? Like, and there's going to be some eggs that maybe, and like some pickles. Like, there's a couple things in this entire gas station, and maybe a banana. But like trying to look to remove, then replace. Let's see, Kimberly's saying something. Roller food. What is roller food? You're so funny.
Food that you can take with you on the run, I think is what it is.
Okay, yes, roller.
Was I right?
Clarify for us. This is so fun. Yes, that's
Yeah,
probably what you meant. Okay,
that's what I'm thinking it is.
yes, and it's true. And it's like, but if we're on the go all the time, you're gonna like, and these kids, like, I feel bad for the kids because it's like they don't want to look like a goofball with that egg salad sandwich at lunch, like they want to have the Welch's Fun Fruits and all the cool foods. Like at least, that was me and my kids were always like, Mom, my lunch is so embarrassing. Like, what is in it? Like, ew. And then they're like, I want hot lunch, and I'm like, no, you're not eating that stuff. And it was like really hard on them. Hot dogs,
The
taquito. Yeah,
taquitos. Yeah.
absolutely. So those are all toxic foods. Well, why are they toxic? Because they're ultra processed. They're full of chemicals to keep them preserved so that you can put them on the shelf. Like anything that you could like open a bag of Doritos and, maybe it'd be stale, but you could still eat it without mold on it a few weeks later. That is not going to help your gut. It's not going to diversify, and it actually kind of creates those toxins, okay, that your body has to now work through and get rid of, and it causes a lot of inflammation. So detoxifying, we add in supplements to support this whole thing. Like I talked about glutathione, melatonin, those are my two top ones for that. And then basically there's also things to consider like gluten, dairy, and soy. So I know that's like, oh my gosh, like what am I going to eat? And so a lot of times what we do, so Tiffany and I and Alina, like we'll take out gluten and dairy at least for a month. And then we will add back in for a week different gluten products to see how the body reacts. So we give it like 3 weeks to 4 to kind of relax and heal. And then we slowly add something back in. And then you may say, oh, I can totally eat sourdough, nothing happens. But when I have, pretzels, like suddenly now I have a headache, I don't feel very good. So it's just very interesting. There's different types of gluten, there's different things. Same with dairy. So then we'll add back in dairy. And like if you're a big yogurt eater or milk and you've always kind of wondered, or if you just avoid it altogether, you could add some back in, like cheese, and see how your body reacts. And if it has issues, we could even add in some enzymes. But that's why I always talk to ladies about, you know what, you might be eating super healthy. Like there's nothing wrong with like, Ezekiel bread, like that's a healthy bread. But if the gluten's getting you, that's your body reacting and creating histamines and inflammation. based off that, we should know that so you don't keep putting it in. And then mold, like a lot, I remember I have this super freaky story. So we had the worst year ever in 2008. So I had two houses in Florida, I had two houses in Minnesota, and basically we ended up having to move back to Minnesota and live in one of the rental houses that was completely trashed. And so we spent the whole summer, you know, had little kids. And like my one son would just, he was like 1.5 years old and he'd be in his high chair and then he'd just throw up. Like, and I thought I was going crazy because I would sit down in the living room and I would do my journaling and my Bible reading. And then suddenly I'm like, I feel so sick. And then I'd go out for a run and I'd feel better. And I'm like, what is going on? I think I'm crazy. Well, one day I went downstairs in the downstairs basement kind of area where this lady had been living. And we had had a flood down there and we hired a remediation. Like they took everything out, we thought. And so I was like, oh, that was taken care of. But I'm like, I wonder what's behind this wood paneling. Like if it's sheetrock and we could just paint it, because I hate this wood paneling. So I start pulling it away, and literally black mold is just absolutely crawling up the walls everywhere. So I was like, oh my God. So then I start researching and, you know, realize like that causes central nervous issues. That's why my son was throwing up. Like we were super sick. We all had to do like, we moved in with my mom in a townhome, my husband, our whole family. And then we basically had it remediated and moved. But it was so bad. And I'm not saying that everyone has that kind of mold, but there's other types of smaller things that can really, but on a higher level, holy cow. I mean, my body was inflamed, in pain. I had to do milk thistle, all these things to get rid of this stuff for years, actually. Um, but then there's plastics as endocrine disruptors, wrap bottles, all that. We constantly, I mean, this morning the girls had little water bottles. I had one. So, you know, just not heating your food in that is definitely big. Like they have those broccoli packs now that you can just throw in the microwave and they're so easy. Do you guys use those at all?
Mm-mm.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and I don't either. So now I open the plastic bag, I put it into a ceramic bowl and at least put that in the microwave, or I'll put it in a metal pan and use that. So that's not getting heated. But
I
any
kind of do that with my tea too. That if I have to buy one that I can't use my diffuser in, I'll empty it out of the bag and put it in to the diffuser and use it that way.
that is beautiful. That's a great workaround. Like
And I don't know if there's things that they make the tea in that would be part of that plastic process, but in my head, I'm thinking it's better than using this tea bag. I don't know.
that's a great, you know, and Shelly, I think I'm gonna actually do that because I love Good Earth tea. They don't have a loose leaf tea. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I want it back. Like it's a cinnamon yummy tea if you've ever had that. Oh my.
Mhm.
And
That sleepy time too is really good.
oh, yes. Yeah. And
Like
like just
sleepy time.
yeah, just cutting the bag, putting it in the diffuser or the metal. I mean, that solves
Mhm.
it right there because then you don't have the heat of the plastic bag. And I mean, I definitely think this is like down the road. I don't know. I mean, obviously, it would be interesting to have my body tested for toxic stuff. I'm sure it's toxic, but I just know like I'm going to do the protocols to keep, you know, avoid as much as I can, remove what's there, and then just keep, you know, moving on. But also like pesticides, fertilizers. I mean, we know all this stuff, right? Our makeup, you know, I've also kind of looked at, is this concealer causing me problems? This lotion, you know, switched over to like a frankincense, you know, handmade soap that is much better. And then like doing the native, we've talked about that before. They have native deodorant, and you can also do, you know, my kids do the sulfate-free shampoos. But getting rid of, you know, the microbiome disruptors, meat, fish, or animal products that are laden with hormones, antibiotics. I mean, you could drive yourself crazy. But I mean, just on a whole, like a grass fed is definitely better. Organic kind of means that for 3 years or more, nothing that that animal has ingested has been grown in the soil that they're eating out of. So it's pretty hard to have your stuff deemed as organic. And then high glycemic foods. So, fast food, processed food, foods and sugar, alcohol, any kind of, high fructose corn syrup should be removed. So like maple syrup is actually pretty good for you as far as a disruptor. Like some of those sugars can be hidden as well, but like honey, I like that a little bit better. And just making sure that, high glycemic just means things that are making your blood sugars go up. So if you guys want a list of those foods, I can share those with you. And then the mercury in your seafood. So this is also such a bummer, right? Because it's like, okay, I'm just gonna eat tuna and rice all day, and I'm gonna look so good and broccoli. And then you're like, well, my broccoli's in package of plastic, and now my tuna has mercury. Like, what the hell am I gonna eat? So I don't want to put you guys there, but just so you kind of know. The least ones are anchovies, catfish, clams, any kind of crab, crawfish, or flounder. The highest is like grouper, mackerel, marlin, orange roughy, shark, swordfish, and ahi tuna. So not necessarily like the tuna in the can, but more like when you have that kind of tuna. I still eat tuna like 2, 3 times a week. I don't know. I mean, you might call me unstable, but I do that. And then moderate to high could be like, bass, buffalo fish, carp, cod. I don't like cod. Tried to fix it millions of times. It just doesn't taste that good. But mahi mahi is really good. Monkfish. And, also a little higher is again the sea bass, the croaker, the halibut, the mackerel, and the tuna in the can. But I don't know. Don't freak out. Eat 3 servings or less per month. That's not me. I mean, I probably eat tuna twice a week. But
We eat tons and tons and tons of walleye.
walleye is great. Like that's not going to have a high mercury content.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like I need to have some studies to back some of this up on the ill health effects. Like
Mm.
in the whole grand scheme of things, if you're eating fish and you're kind of eating more natural things, I just wouldn't sweat it that much, but just be cognizant of it. Other things is cabbage, broccoli, kale, Brussels sprouts. So that, 1 to 2 cups a day. Garlic cloves. So anything you could supplement with garlic, which is something I've done. Any kind of green tea in the morning to just kind of, detoxify, get your body in a good place. Matcha is really good because it's chopped so fine and that as like such a high antioxidant. If you want, you could do a kale, celery, cilantro juice with apples. Like we've done that before. My husband's thrown in ginger, carrot. Like it's just the celery is very yummy and it actually kind of makes your body less acidic and it helps your body to detox. And cilantro is a big that pulls metals out. So if you're a guacamole eater, like throw in tons of cilantro. And then herbal detox teas are like dandelion root, ginger root, licorice, sarsaparilla root, cardamom, cinnamon, bark. So, like, I have this tea I get off Amazon. It's called Inflammatia, and I think it has like licorice root, ginger root. It has curcumin in it, and I put that in tea at night, and like it can't hurt. And then anything like high quality eggs, plant protein, garlic and onions. So why garlic and onions? They're basically like a natural antibiotic, and it actually takes quite a bit for your body to digest and break those down. So it diversifies the gut really well. Um, and then more foods is like citrus peels, caraway, dill oil, berries like grapes, citrus, other fruits, dandelion greens, celery could also be great to increase urine flow. The cilantro, rosemary has anti-inflammatory, gets rid of things, turmeric. So, I mean, everything you need doesn't have to be in a supplement. Like it really literally comes from choosing these different foods. And then you could even throw wheatgrass. Like, if you go to the produce mean, I don't have any, but if you get some, you can freeze it or whatever, and then throw that into your shake. So these all help. And then antioxidant rich foods, nutrients like amino acid, things like animal protein, fish, whey. I think we get so concerned that the protein's going to tax our kidneys or whatever, when actually it kind of does the opposite effect because it has more nutrients and amino acids, and our body has to break those down to digest and put them out to muscle. So that diversifies our gut. Um, Things like eggs, asparagus, broccoli, cauliflower, like cauliflower rice. When I'm feeling hungry, like literally I'll make an entire, plate of that, and then I'll put my stir fry on top of it, and I just feel full and good. And like there's almost zero, it takes more for your body to break those down. I mean, and then it also helps you detox. We do like every week egg roll in a bowl, so we'll use that red cabbage and onions and garlic, and then we do ground turkey, and basically make that. And sometimes I'll do Bragg's. It's like a amino acid blend. It tastes like soy sauce, and that's kind of like the flavoring, and then some peppers, and just basically anything high fiber, and probiotic rich foods. Like you said, yogurts help you, that kind of thing. And, basically our spices, beverages like broth, coconut water, filtered water. So I take mine out of the fridge. Any type of kombucha, sparkling mineral water, black tea, green tea, oolong, rooibos, herbal, the vegetable juice, like are all super good. The spices, black pepper, cardamom, cilantro. I think we've been guilty of not using enough spice, and using other things, or just, but there's jalapeno peppers, lemongrass, mint, like all of that stuff is just super good for you and going to help your body. And then aiming for regular bowel movements. One to Shelly's like, but that's what we're aiming towards. It doesn't mean that's where you're going to be immediately. Drinking clean water, doing sweating, through steam baths, saunas, lymphatic massage, yoga, those all enhance lymph flow. Like you can kind of get your lymph flow just by doing this on your neck. Soluble, insoluble fiber, 25 grams a day is usually trying to be the minimum. Chia seed has a ton of it in there. And then doing things like, the cabbage, what's that called? Kimchi, sauerkraut. I know that's like, oh, yogurt, the kombucha, those all help on a daily basis to kind of help there. Having a good multivitamin and mineral, some vitamin C, milk thistle, and rosemary are really good ways to aid in the support of this detoxification. Like I said, you could do turmeric, B6, 12, folate, omega-3. So typically in a really good multi, you're going to have a lot of those things. Things to add in would be like the glutathione, the omega-3s, and then you could do the turmeric or do the tea even, and then you'd have a pretty good regimen. So that's a lot. And then just knowing that detoxification to me comes first, but on here kind of comes last. But I mean, the actual detoxification, but getting your bowel movements more regular to me is like the first step, I feel like. And then you could focus on detoxifying through those bowel movements by taking those supplements and all of that. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay. So yeah, that was a lot of info. We've got 5 minutes though still to chat. Like if we
Mhm.
anybody have any questions or thoughts or overwhelm, like, I'm just here, I'm the messenger, and I am not saying I do all these things 100%. I have them in my mind. I have really good intentions, I'm focused, but I also try to be, as realistic as possible, if that makes sense. Like
Yeah.
I'm not gonna beat myself up or freak out or stop eating foods that aren't organic. Like, I feel like you have to kind of sort through some of it and just where do you come out? What would move you one step further? Like if you,
Yeah.
yeah, 4 times a week, great. Like that would be good for you, you know?
Mhm.
Um, so Kimberly says, I told Tiffany I was starting Metamucil, but she said there are side effects. How do you feel about it? Um, it kind of depends. So you're really constipated, Kimberly. Is that why? I think if it helps you, it's great. But why don't we, instead of Metamucil, like we could start with chia seeds. That's an easy tablespoon. And then like in your shakes, in your yogurt, something along those lines.
What
That's
about castor oils?
I love castor oils for like castor packs. Have you ever done that? Like a liver pack, like put it on your, and then I also have used it for my face. So it's just like a great, like if I'm going to gua sha or whatever it's called, that, thing for your face. As
Yeah.
far as taking it, I mean, definitely that would be fine. It takes down inflammation. It would be great. Yeah, if you can stomach it, I would do it. Yeah, that would be, oh my gosh.
If you're mixing it in with a shake or something, it wouldn't have to be a lot.
I would do it and I would see if that because that's a fat basically, and that's what I think is missing. Like right now, your
Mhm.
macros are probably kind of smaller, and so getting you to go is harder. So I would add in that fat. And so same with Kimberly. I would do, like some kind of chia seed, which is also a fat, to move things through. And then I would also do like magnesium citrate. So magnesium citrate is like what they give you when you are going to go to the bathroom for your colonoscopy. If you anybody ever had a colonoscopy,
I've had mine done, but I don't remember using that.
did you drink like a big bunch of liquid?
They had us take green box, green, maybe it was Metamucil. No, purple container, purple and white container, and they had you mix it with um Gatorade, and then you took 3 pills to start out with. You took one, and then an hour later you took another, and then an hour later you took another, and then after that you had to drink so much of this liquid in a Gatorade bottle with that purple, I can't think what it's called, stuff in there, and you did that until your Metamucil or your bottled stuff was gone. And that was they didn't have us do the magnesium citrate.
Okay, totally. Well, and so the magnesium citrate just basically puts water into your bowels because like just having more fiber that actually can cause an issue, Kimberly, like like because now your body's like, oh, you have all this protein and now you have this fiber and like and it slows things down. So we need fats to kind of like slick that up, and then we need more water in the bowel to release. So I would start with a citrate that would release some water into your bowels. So I can send that to you if you want. Um, that would be really good versus a Metamucil. Like that's probably why she's like, oh, the side effects of it are, can cause more constipation, which is seems crazy.
Mhm.
But like once we get the water into your bowels and stuff and get the chia, maybe a more natural, then if you wanted to add Metamucil, we maybe could.
Yeah, that kind of stuff just, I don't know. The Metamucil stuff it was bad enough, and I can't remember what it's called. It's purple. It's in a purple and white bottle, and you have to get it through um the drugstore.
Okay.
I don't think what it's called. But yeah, it's harsh. It's harsh on your body.
It's
Anything
hard.
that's
It's
yeah,
yeah. So we start
anything that's harsh you want to stay away from.
too, and like just we'll start with a very low dose, like 200 milligrams, Kimberly, of citrate, and like you could take that at night and just see if that helps.
Mhm.
So I want to do a book club with you all. So basically, we have Dr. Day. She's coming in 2 weeks, and she's gonna talk about kind of the emotional side of why our hormones have changed, what's going on. And that's what this book is about, the menopause brain. But I thought, how fun for us to be a little educated when she does talk about it. And then we could also do like a little side book club here. So let me know if you're interested. And you don't have to read it. So I've had people say, I don't want to read. I'm like, yeah, I know. We don't have time to like pour over a book, but like audiobooks are great. Like if
Those
you're
are my, those are my bomb. I drive a half an hour one way to work and that's what I do is I listen to audiobooks.
same, I think it's great. I drive my son home. So I have a son who has like a disability and like he comes over every weekend, but he lives like 45 minutes away. So
Mhm.
every weekend, drive there, drive home, drive there. So he's listened to a lot of audiobooks. And so this would be perfect. I just have the hard copy because it has some graphics in here. And sometimes I like, especially with books like this, I like to kind of go back and reference. But audiobook would be the best way to do this. And then we'll just kind of talk about it. So if you're like, yeah, I want to do that, let's have you read like chapter 1 and 2 or listen to, and then I'll let you know kind of how we're gonna ask questions and do that. So it's called The Menopause Brain, and it's Dr. Lisa Mosconi. And Dr. Day, she's a functional medicine doctor, is going to be our guest on Thursday, the 27th. And she's going to have like a presentation with some things about this book. So I was like, that'd be cool if we all kind of read a little bit and knew what it was. So try and
27th.
tie it in. Yeah. So it should be the 27th. Yeah. I have another girl come in who, is going to do some like trauma, kind of brain stuff. Her name's Nova. She's amazing. And then I also am super excited. Like, I'm going to do a little Pilates class with you guys in a couple of weeks too after Dr. Day. So that should be fun, but it's going to be really basic, really fun things that you can do, like, seated or standing. It doesn't have to, it's not going to be hard. It's going to be more like, how can we get these exercise snacks in? So I'm going to try to put it in like couple different examples, do some with you guys that are like 10 minutes. So let me know if there's something that we're not discussing on our calls that you'd like more about. And I will be more than happy to do that. Or if there's somebody, a guest you'd really like to see on here, tell me and I will do my best to scout that out and get them on. Does that sound good?
Mhm.
Hey, all right. Well, thanks, you guys. This has been amazing. I know it was a lot of sciencey talk. I hope it I feel like my second PowerPoint was a little better. Like the other one's a little like, what? MTHFR? Like, what's that? And, don't need to know. Oh, Kimberly, you're great. And I need to give you your rundown of your hormone tests. So that's my next thing on my agenda. So I'm going to go make you a quick video and then we can talk. All right. Okay. Thank you guys. Have a great rest of your
Have a good one.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.